We're live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. Monsoon fury continues in parts of India. At least 5 people killed, 14 injured after a landslide on Mata Vaishno Devi route in Jammu. Army, police, CRPF, Shrine Board carry out rescue and relief. Trump to hold key meetings on Gaza at White House, predicts conclusive ending of the conflict by the end of year. Trump-Fed feud escalates as central bank's governor Cook plans to sue over illegal firing while US President mulls replacement. And on the third day of US Open, world number 1 Jannik Sinner and Wimbledon champion Iga Swiatek breezes into the second round. And on to the details now. In Jammu, at least 5 people were killed and 14 were injured after heavy rainfall led to a landslide on the route to the Mata Vaishno Devi shrine atop the Trikuta hill on Tuesday afternoon. Authorities fear toll to rise further. Rescue operations are underway and the pilgrimage was suspended. Well, all devotees are advised to replan their yatra to the shrine once the weather improves. Sri Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine Board has established a dedicated helpline desk at ENR Niharika. The contact numbers are 91 990 19460. Another one is 91 990 19446 and 9191 0349 1554. Well, the relief column of Indian Army's White Knight Corps at Atkuwari, in concert with rescue parties of Shrine Board, Jammu and Kashmir Police and CRPF are assisting the victims of the landslide. So far, more than 3,500 people have been rescued. Close coordination with all agencies being carried out to maximize the humanitarian aid. Well, the spell of rain also continues in Jammu for the third consecutive day on Wednesday. All government and private schools, colleges, institutes and universities will remain closed today. In view of the situation, the centre has ordered activation of intra-circle roaming services in Jammu and Kashmir. Also, the traffic on the Jammu-Srinagar and Kishtwar-Doda national highways was suspended, while dozens of hilly roads were blocked or damaged by landslides or flash floods. Also, the Indian Army continues to conduct search and relief operations in flood-affected areas. Also, as per the latest update from the Indian Meteorological Department, persistent rainfall is to be expected for multiple Indian states. Heavy showers at isolated places predicted in Mumbai until August 29th. Neighbouring Thane is also bracing for heavy rain, while Pune is likely to experience light to moderate rain accompanied by thunder showers during the same period. And in Rajasthan, the monsoon continues to deliver heavy to very heavy rainfall across several regions. The Meteorological Centre in Jaipur has issued an orange alert for extremely heavy rainfall in Ratsamand, Sirohi and Udaipur districts. But also heavy rains have triggered landslides and swollen rivers and streams, disrupting road connectivity in several parts of Himachal Pradesh. As per the Met Department, in the month of August, the state has received 62% more rain than normal. Especially in Kullu district, it has rained 155% more than normal. Shimla has received 112%. Solan has received 117%. And Una district has received 128% more rainfall than normal. The downpour has caused extensive damage to the Kiratpur-Manali National Highway at multiple locations, forcing its closure to the traffic. Several other roads and a restaurant were swept away in Manali while locals were evacuated in Mandi. Almost all districts in the hill state, except Lahore and Spiti, have been receiving rainfall since Sunday night, with no respite expected until 1st of September. As a precaution, schools and government institutions in the affected areas remain closed today. Meanwhile, heavy rain and overflowing rivers wreaked havoc across 7 districts of Punjab also, with Army and BSF joining the rescue and relief operations that included the use of helicopters and boats. Met Department has issued an orange alert for 11 districts in most parts of the state. So far, around 130 villages across 7 districts remain badly affected. And in a swift and daring operation, Indian Army Aviation evacuated 22 CRPF personnel along with 3 civilians who had been stranded near Madhopur headworks since yesterday. In a turn of events that underscores the urgency of the operation, the building where they had been sheltering collapsed shortly after the evacuation, highlighting the timeliness and precision of the rescue. This successful operation once again reflects the Indian Army's unwavering commitment to safeguarding lives and its ability to respond promptly in crisis situations. The synergy between Indian Army and the local authorities ensured that a potential tragedy was averted. And now some update on Typhoon Tajiki. The death toll has risen to 3 in Vietnam as rescue workers battled uprooted trees and downed power lines. Widespread flooding has brought chaos to the streets of the capital, Hanoi. The typhoon hit central Vietnam on Monday, with heavy winds tearing roofs of thousands of homes and knocking out power to more than 1.6 million people. Well, Vietnam has long been affected by seasonal typhoons, but human-caused climate change is driving more intense and unpredictable weather patterns. Also, a massive dust storm darkened the skies over Arizona's Pinal County, made driving difficult for people trying to get home as the storm descended. The National Weather Service described the dust storm as a haboob. Haboobs frequently occur during the summer monsoon season in the southwest United States, creating a wall of dust that travels outward, spanning a much larger area than the thunderstorm itself, according to the weather expert. While France's southeast continues to battle scorching blaze of wildfires with over 1 million hectares of land across the European Union affected so far this year. As of Tuesday, an estimated of more than 100,000 hectares, an area larger than the island nation of Cyprus, had been ravaged by fire. The record-breaking fires come amid an intense summer heat wave that has shattered temperature records across southern France and fueled fire risks in several countries. Well, the Spanish firefighters fight a relentless battle against a series of wildfires that have ravaged the country's northwest in recent weeks, with over 15 active blazes still threatening homes, forests and farmlands. Officials have described the situation as one of the worst environmental disasters Spain has faced in years. The fires, fueled by extreme summer heat and prolonged drought conditions, have scorched thousands of hectares across the regions of Galicia and Castilla y Leon. And Chief of Army Staff General Upendra Dwivedi, who's on a 4-day official visit to Algeria, visited the Churchill Military Academy, Algeria's premier institution for officer training. This marks his first overseas engagement since the successful conclusion of Operation Sindoor. Well, during his visit, COAS Upendra Dwivedi was briefed on the Academy's vital role in preparing cadets for leadership as officers in the Algerian army. He interacted with the faculty, commending their dedication and high standards of training. COAS Dwivedi also expressed interest in fostering cooperation and the exchange of best practices between the Churchill Academy and training institutes of the Indian Armed Forces. Also, the visit underscores India's intent to deepen defense ties with the Maghreb Sahel region of Africa. An India-US 2+2 intersessional dialogue was held virtually on Tuesday, where officials discussed regional security developments and exchanged perspectives on a number of shared strategic priorities. Well, they discussed trade and investment, energy security, including strengthening civil nuclear cooperation, critical minerals exploration, counter-narcotics and counter-terrorism cooperation, and more. Both sides looked forward to increasing defense cooperation, including signing a new 10-year framework for India. U.S. major defense partnership, as well as advancing defense industrial, science and technology cooperation, operational coordination, regional cooperation and information sharing. Also, the chairs reaffirmed their commitment to promoting a safer, stronger and more prosperous Indo-Pacific region through the Quad. And India and South Africa held a productive meeting on Tuesday with its Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition Parks, Tao, holding talks with Indian counterpart Piyush Goyal. Two sides exchanged views on strengthening bilateral trade and investment ties, enhancing industrial partnership, and explored new avenues for collaboration in diverse sectors such as pharmaceuticals, services, and tourism. And Minister of State for Foreign Trade Affairs, Dr. Ahmed bin Mohammed Al Sayed of Qatar, arrived in India on Tuesday. He's leading a high-level investment delegation from Qatar. The minister last visited India on December 2nd and 3rd, 2024, and participated in the CII Partnership Summit and met Indian counterpart Piyush Goyal on the sidelines. India and Qatar held the first meeting of the Joint Task Force on Investment in June last year in New Delhi. The two sides held comprehensive discussions on boosting India-Qatar investment partnership and required steps for the same. And famous for its rich sweetness and organic purity, the Ladakh apricot is more than just a fruit. It's a heritage now being exported abroad. For the first time, fresh Ladakhi Kargil Hanuman apricots are being exported to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Qatar. This is aiming to boost Ladakh's agricultural products in international markets. Known for their exceptional taste and quality, Ladakh's apricots are counted among the finest in the world. Ladakh produces around 15,868 tons of apricots annually, with 2/3 coming from Kargil and 1/3 from Leh district. And the festival of Ganesh Chaturthi is being celebrated from today, marking the birth of Lord Ganesh, the remover of obstacles and the god of wisdom and prosperity. And now we take you live to Army War College in Dr. Ambedkar Nagar in Madhya Pradesh, where Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh is to address the plenary session at the
General Anil Chauhan, Chief of Defence Staff, Admiral D.K. Tripathi, Chief of Naval Staff, Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh, Chief of Air Staff, Lieutenant General Pushpendra Singh, Vice Chief of Army Staff, Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary, former Chief of Air Staff, Admiral Arun Prakash, former Chief of Naval Staff, foreign defense attaches, scholars and think tanks, academicians and industry leaders, veterans and officers from Yamodi and our armed forces, friends from media. There is no other, ladies and gentlemen. I am immensely happy to join the Rana Samwad program here on this sacred land of Mahu. This is the very land that gave birth to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a towering intellectual of our country, and at the same time honor the Indian Army with a glorious tradition of scholar warriors, a tradition that makes the entire nation proud. Friends, the very title of the program, Ran Samwad, strikes me as a quite interesting. The name itself is a subject to think about and reflect. And on one hand, Ran evokes the imagery of battle and conflict, and on the other hand, Samwad points towards dialogue, discussion, and reconciliation. At first glance, the two words seem contradictory. Where there is a battle, how can there be a dialogue? And where dialogue is taking place, how can there be a battle? But if we look deeper, this very name embodies one of the most relevant truths of our times. Friends, the name Ran Samwad also has historical basis in India and reminds me of many incidents from our history which show us how civilizationally battles means run and dialogues means samwad in India were intertwined. In our culture, dialogue is not separate from battle. It comes before the battle. It happens during the battle and it continues even after the battle. Friends, take the Mahabharata for instance. To prevent the war, Lord Sri Krishna went as a messenger of peace. He went to engage in dialogue so that the war could be averted. But when Duryodhan, the antagonist of the epic Mahabharata, refused, the war became inevitable. Even then, during the battle, there was dialogue, and this dialogue is popularly remembered and has been immortalized as a Bhagavad Gita. And after the war was over, there was again dialogue between Yudhishthir and the Bhishma, who lay on his bed of arrows, imparting wisdom of governance and the statecraft. This unique blending of battle and dialogue is something that can only be found in ancient culture such as India. That is why I congratulate you all for choosing such a truly meaningful name for this event. Friends, in today's global environment, it is often the breakdown of dialogue that becomes the root cause of hostility and the conflict. On the other hand, even in times of war, maintaining channels of dialogue remains essential. Many of you would have heard of or read Sun Tzu classic work, The Art of War. In that book, Sun Tzu writes, in war, prepare for peace, and in peace, prepare for war. This shows that from ancient times across the world, war and dialogue have complemented each other. It is therefore a matter of deep satisfaction for me to be present at this Ran Samwad, organized through the joint initiative of our tri-services. I am told this is the very first edition of the program, and for that I extend my heartfelt congratulations to the Chief of Defence Staff and all the three services chiefs and Lieutenant General Shahi, along with my best wishes for the future. Friends, when it comes to dialogue, our Indian philosophical thought accords dialogues a very high place. History bears witness that in our tradition, exchange of ideas and thoughts has never been confined merely to the realm of diplomacy, but has also been an integral part of our cultural development. I believe that today, Ran Samwad is not merely an academic exercise, but one that will further refine our strategic and diplomatic outlook. The thoughts and the conclusions emerging from this dialogue will not only strengthen our defense strategy, but also make a long-term contribution to the nation's overall security architecture and its path of development. Friends, as we begin our discussion on the Ran Samwad, I would like to start with the idea of Ran or battle itself. Since the dawn of civilization, war has been an inseparable part of the human society. And history bears witness to the fact that wars have always left behind devastating consequences. No matter the era or the geography, the outcome of war has invariably been destruction. The loss of human lives and the resources in war can never be justified. Friends, at the very outset, let me emphasize that India has never been a nation that seeks war. We have never initiated aggression against anyone. However, the present geopolitical reality is quite different. Even though we do not harbor any aggressive intent, if someone challenges us, it becomes imperative that we respond with strength. To do so, we must continuously enhance our defense preparedness. This is why training, technological advancement, and a sustained dialogue with partners are of utmost importance for us. Referring to the concept note you shared for the Ran Samwad program, I noticed a very insightful quote from Karl von Clausewitz. He said, "Each age has its own peculiar form of war." In his time, this observation was entirely appropriate. But the present era is defined by non-linear and multi-domain warfare. Today, there is no fixed system of war, no rigid doctrine that we can blindly rely upon. Hence, I would like to state, in the present age, there is no definite peculiar form of war. Friends, if we, for instance, consider the age of colonialism, when naval power was the foremost symbol of strength across the world, nations with formidable and well-equipped navies not only dominated sea trade routes, but also extended their influence over distant lands. The British Empire is the most striking example of this. During that era, Alfred Thayer, sea power theory, gained prominence wherein he declared, "Who rules the sea rules the world." However, the times changed, and by the mid-20th century, the two world wars shifted the center of power towards the skies. Air forces of nations across the world transformed the very nature of warfare. Battles were no longer confined to land or sea. Instead, air superiority became the decisive factor. The Battle of Britain stands out as a remarkable example where the Royal Air Force Spitfires and Hurricanes halted Germany's offensive in the air itself. Since the 1950s, the importance of air power has continued to grow significantly. Friends, after the Second World War, the world entered a new phase, the Cold War era. Though it was not a direct battlefield confrontation, it was marked by an arms race and a series of the proxy wars. During this period, missile technology became the new benchmark of military power. Weapons such as intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine-launched missiles, and cruise missiles transformed warfare into a matter of minutes. The 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis was the peak of this tension, when just a few days of standoff brought the entire world to the brink of nuclear war. Friends, today in the 21st century, this transformation has become more rapid. Sheer numbers of soldiers or the size of weapon stockpiles are no longer enough. Cyber warfare, artificial intelligence, unmanned aerial vehicles, and satellite-based surveillance are shaping the wars of the future. Precision-guided weapons, real-time intelligence, the data-driven information have now become the cornerstone of success in any conflict. Friends, modern battles are no longer confined to land, sea, and air. They now extend into outer space and cyberspace. Satellite systems, anti-satellite weapons, and space command centers are the new instruments of power. Therefore, what we require today is not just defensive preparedness, but also a proactive strategy. Friends, future wars will not merely be battles of weapons. They will be a combined play of technology, intelligence, economy, and diplomacy. In the times ahead, the nation that masters the triangle of technology, strategy, and adaptability will emerge as the true global power. To put it simply, this is the moment to learn from history and write a new one. That is the moment to anticipate the future and shape one. It was observed closely. Systems and doctrines of war have evolved with time. In just the past 10 to 20 years, the pace of these changes has been so rapid that fixing any permanent pattern has become almost impossible. It would not be wrong to say the age we live in has just one doctrine, that there is none. Circumstances and the challenges change with such speed that every nation is compelled to keep its strategy flexible and responsive. Friends, today in the world, whichever nation decides the battlefield is the one that controls the game and its rules. Others have no option but to respond to this and step into the arena on terms that are not of its own choosing. Our endeavor must be to define the battlefield and the rules of the game ourselves, compelling the adversary to fight there so that the lead advantage always remains with us. Friends, the success of Operation Sindoor is the perfect example in itself. The bravery and the swiftness with which our forces carried out action against the terrorist shelter in Pakistan was something those terrorists could never have been imagined. I firmly believe that every war leaves us with some important learnings. In the course of battle, we are able to realistically assess the level of our preparedness. If we speak the Operation Sindoor, it was indeed a striking demonstration of technology-driven warfare. Friends, be it offensive or defensive techniques, operational practices, quick and efficient war logistics, the seamless integration of our forces are matters of the intelligence and the surveillance. Operation Sindoor gave us a wealth of nations. It provided us with a glimpse of the kind of the challenges and responses that could serve as a valuable guidance for any conflict in the future. You may also have observed that Operation Sindoor has emerged as a great example demonstrating the success of our indigenous platforms, equipment, and the weapon systems. Its achievements have once again underlined that in the times to come, self-reliance is an absolute necessity. We have indeed made significant progress on the path of self-reliance, but there is still a long way ahead that we must travel. Friends, beyond all these aspects, Operation Sindoor has also taught us another crucial lesson: the importance of information and the cyber warfare in today's age. While enhancing our defense capability, it is equally vital to ensure that our information and the cyber infrastructure is made even more robust. I believe we must give this matter deep thought and careful consideration. Friends, amidst all these changes, there has always been one factor that plays a decisive role: the element of surprise. In today's world, this element of surprise has become even more powerful because it is now coupled with technological warfare. Technology is advancing at such a pace that by the time we fully grasp one innovation, another emerges completely alerting the course of warfare. Unmanned aerial vehicles, hypersonic missiles, cyber attacks, and artificial intelligence-driven decision-making are examples of tools that are bringing unexpected twists to modern conflicts. The most striking feature of this element of surprise is that it no longer has a permanent form. It keeps changing, always carrying uncertainty with it. And it is precisely this uncertainty that confounds adversaries, often becoming the decisive factor in the outcome of war. In our times, the fusion of technology and surprise is making warfare more complex and unpredictable than ever before. That is why we must not only master existing technologies, but also ensure that we are constantly prepared for new innovations and unforeseen challenges. Friends, if you look at the recent example, you can see the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. When the conflict started in 2022, it was primarily conventional warfare, including tanks, artillery, and rifles. The ground forces were engaged in hand-to-hand combat. But in 3 years, the nature of this war changed completely. Now we are witnessing that various types of war systems and doctrines are being deployed in this conflict. Initially, this battle was being fought with the help of tanks and artillery, but now drones, sensor-based weapons, and precision-guided munitions are playing a decisive role. This change shows how the methodology and the tactics of war can change in just a short period of time. It is also clear from this that even in the future, in any conflict, we will not have to rely only on traditional means, but we will have to keep pace with technological advancement continuously. At the same time, I believe that the component of the self-reliance in the defense sector is one of the most important components. If we talk about self-reliance, especially in the field of the defense manufacturing, then I would like to say that India has embarked on a historic journey. We are once counted among the world's largest importers, but today, on the path of the self-reliant India, we are making a place among the reliable exporters of the world. Today, our indigenous platforms, light combat aircraft Tejas, advanced towed artillery gun systems, Akash missile systems, and indigenous aircraft carrier are giving a message to the world that India's technology and quality are now standing at world-class standards. This confidence and strength are due to our scientists, our industry, and our leadership. Today we are making all the equipment in our country that we used to import. You will also be very happy to know that now we have taken another step forward in the direction of making fifth-generation fighter aircraft. Now we are moving fast in the direction of making jet engines in India itself. Friends, under the visionary leader of our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, the government has made many policy reforms in recent years. Such strong steps have been taken to promote indigenous design, development, and manufacturing. Self-reliance in the defense sector is no longer a dream, but is truly becoming a reality. Friends, the journey of the last 10 years is proof of this. Our defense production, which was only 46,425 crore rupees in 2024, has now increased to a record over 1.5 lakh crores rupees. The contribution of over 33,000 crore rupees from the private sector shows that private industries are also becoming partners in this campaign of Atmanirbhar Bharat. The result of this partnership is that India's defense exports, which were less than 1,000 crore rupees 10 years ago, have now increased to a record of approximately 24,000 crore rupees. This is not just about a trade or production, it is a symbol of India's changing global identity. Today, when the world sees the Make in India level, it gets assurance that it also gets confidence in the quality of our indigenously developed platforms and systems. And this is the real strength of the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Self-reliance is no longer just a slogan. It is the unbreakable foundation of our national security. Friends, on the occasion of Independence Day, all of you must have seen and heard when the Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi announced the Sudarshan Chakra mission from the ramparts of the Red Fort. The Sudarshan Chakra mission is our resolve for India's self-defense, under which in the coming years all important places in the country will be covered with a shield of modern and indigenously developed technology. I am pleased that we are progressing rapidly in this direction. DRDO has recently successfully completed the first test of the integrated air defense weapon system. In addition, DRDO in the recent past has also successfully tested a high-powered directed energy weapon. I think these successes are not just of DRDO or the armed forces, but of the entire nation. Friends, during Operation Sindoor, we also saw better coordination among the three armed forces and their jointness. I believe that the jointness and integration of our forces played a major important role in the success of the Operation Sindoor. Therefore, I think we should also move forward in strengthening joint strategic communication. Friends, given how technologies are changing, accordingly, we need to accommodate the patterns of training of our forces. I was very happy to learn that the Army Training Command, RTRAC, has taken a policy decision to provide drone technology-related training to all Jawans of our Army by 2027. This will undoubtedly prove to be a game-changer step in this technological era. Friends, when I talk about changing technology and the changing world, it becomes very necessary that we also adapt our forces according to the changing world. For this, I have seen told that our army has taken the initiative for the formation of the Rudra Brigade, Shaktiman Regiment, Divyast Battery, Drone Platoon, and the Bhairav Battalion. This is a matter of the great happiness because all these things have undoubtedly become very necessary, keeping the future in mind. Friends, I would also like to say a few things about our Navy technological progress. During Operation Sindoor, the way our Navy maintained strategic positions which limited the enemy's movement completely in the Arabian Sea. Our Navy's presence in the Indian Ocean is keeping our maritime borders completely secure. Our government is also working with full readiness to make the Navy even stronger and more robust. Just yesterday, I witnessed the commissioning of INS Himagiri and INS Udaygiri in our Navy. According to the changing world and the changing technology, such numerous platforms and infrastructure are not only being included in the Navy, but are also strengthening it. Similarly, the Indian Air Force is also continuously strengthening itself by inducting everything from long-range missiles to next-generation beyond visual-range weapons. The counter-US grid is being further strengthened In view of the increasing use of drones and besides, whether it's procurement of the policy-related changes, we are always moving forward in the direction of strengthening our forces. Friends, in today's era, wars have become so sudden and unpredictable that it is very difficult to predict when any war will end and how long it will last. So we must be prepared for every situation. We must be prepared for this so that our surge capacity is sufficient. That is, if any war stretches from 2 months, 4 months, a year, 2 years, even 5 years, then we should be fully prepared for it. That is why we need to streamline our defense industry. Friends, in today's era, any conflict affects the entire country and every citizen can come under its purview. A country's economic system, industrial structure, technological capabilities, education system, all these have now become major components of security. Therefore, the scope of defense preparedness cannot be limited to the armed forces alone. In such a situation, the importance of communication becomes even greater. Through dialogue, we not only share experiences and information, but also understand each other's capabilities, challenges, and needs. And this understanding leads us to those strategies which are necessary for success in multi-dimensional warfare. Friends, I want to emphasize that in today's time, the responsibility of being prepared is not only for the soldiers. The whole country and every citizen will have to be alert and capable at their own level. National security is no longer just a matter of armies, but has become an issue of a whole-of-nation approach. In this, the active role of industries, academia, media, technical institutes, and the civil society is necessary. Friends, the country's defense is not only handled by soldiers at the border, but also by the scientists who develop new technologies, the industrialists who produce weapon systems, and the teachers who prepare the next generation for warfare. Friends, when we look ahead, we should remember that the challenges before India are formidable, but our resolve and courage are even bigger. The world respects us not just for strength, but for our dedication to truth, peace, and justice. We do not want anyone's land, but we are ready to go to any extent to protect our land. We must take this country forward with our unity, our clear intentions, and the full commitment. With this confidence, we will confidently march toward 2047 and take India to new heights. Friends, in the end, I would like to say that today's Rana Samwad is not just an exchange of views, but an opportunity to understand the various dimensions of the security, policy making, and understanding different facets of the three services. The discussions here will give us an opportunity to think about how we can make India more empowered, secure, and self-reliant. I hope that your thoughts, your suggestions, and perspectives will be helpful in making the nation's defense policy more effective in the times to come. Let me conclude my address by wishing you all the very best for this meaningful dialogue. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you very much.
Well, we were watching live from Army War College in Dr. Ambedkar Nagar in Madhya Pradesh, where Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh addressed the plenary session at Sui Generis Tri-Service Dialogue on War Warfare and War Fighting called Run Samwad 2025. Raksha Mantri congratulated CDS and the three army chiefs for the first edition of the Run Samwad. He mentioned the importance of dialogues and conflicts. He also mentioned about the Cold War era when a new benchmark for military power had begun. He said today in the 21st century, this transformation has become more real. Cyberspace and outer space are the new instruments of power. So he said, we require proactive strategy. He said that systems and doctrines have evolved with time and there can be no one doctrine in the present times. He spoke about the success of Operation Sindoor, demonstrated our strategy, and he said self-reliance was an absolute necessity. Raksha Mantri also mentioned about the importance of dialogues and conflicts. He said India today is keeping pace with technological advancement and is on the path of being totally self-reliant, competing world-class standards effortlessly and moving towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. Well, the event actually brought serving military professionals to the forefront of the strategic dialogue. A few joint doctrines in the technology perspective and capability roadmap were also released during the event, and Run Samwad 2025 aimed to enhance interaction, communication and cooperation among military communities on issues critical to war fighting. Moving beyond the academic discourse, the seminar offered a ground-up understanding of the evolving nature of warfare rooted in live experience and professional expertise from combat soldiers. Well, Run Samwad 2025 aspires to evolve into a prominent forum for addressing global security challenges while reinforcing India's security priorities. It reflects a growing recognition of the need for strategic autonomy, inter-service synergy and credible military discourse that speaks not only about Indian realities but also the broader international security environment. And time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we decode India-France jet engine collaboration. We explain how the Agni 5 test reinforces peace through strength and how INS Himgiri showcases India's indigenous naval power. We also analyze Israel's Rampage missile and how it boosts Indian Air Force's precision strike edge, and why Indian Army Chief's visit to Algeria so important. Sharp insights, clear explanations, Defense Dynamics this Wednesday at 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Now. Lipakshi Khurana. And moving on, U.S. President Donald Trump will chair a meeting on Gaza at the White House on Wednesday. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said that Washington expected Israel's conflict in the Palestinian territory to be settled by the end of the year. Trump's term began with a ceasefire which lasted 2 months. Trump stunned the world early this year when he suggested the United States should take control of the Gaza Strip, clear out its 2 million inhabitants and build seaside real estate. Trump said the United States would remove rubble and unexploded bombs and turn Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the proposal, which was heavily criticized by many European and Arab states. Well, in an interview to a news channel, Witkoff said they are putting a very comprehensive plan. He also said that Israel was open to continuing discussions with Palestinian militant group Hamas. He also said Hamas had signaled they were open to a settlement. Well, also, Iran held talks on Tuesday with European powers seeking to avert a sanctions snapback which they have threatened to impose under the moribund 2015 nuclear deal. The European trio, Britain, France and Germany, parties to the landmark 2015 Iran nuclear deal, have threatened to trigger the Accords snapback mechanism by the end of August. Also, Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister, who attended the talks with Britain, France and Germany in Geneva, said in a post on X, it was high time for the European trio to make the right choice and give diplomacy time and space. Well, Tuesday's meeting was the second round of talks with European diplomats since the end of the 12-day war between Iran and Israel in June, triggered by an unprecedented Israeli surprise attack. The move would reimpose sweeping UN sanctions lifted under the 2015 agreement unless Iran agreed to curb its uranium enrichment and restore cooperation with International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors. And Donald Trump's Fed feud intensifies as U.S. Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook will be challenging Trump's attempt to remove her from the central bank after the U.S. leader ramped up pressure on the institution. Her lawyer said that Trump's attempts to fire Lisa Cook lacks legal and factual basis and announced plans to file a lawsuit challenging the action. Trump removed Lisa Cook on Monday, citing allegations of false statements related to her mortgage agreements, expanding pressure on the independent central bank. While citing the Federal Reserve Act, Trump said in a letter to Lisa Cook that he found sufficient cause to remove her from her position. Meanwhile, as per the Wall Street Journal, potential candidates to replace Lisa Cook include Trump advisor Stephen Miran and former World Bank President David Malpass, a close ally who has criticized the Fed for not cutting the interest rates.
Well, we have some very good people for that position, and I think we have some very good people. We're down to, I think I maybe in my own mind have somebody that I like. But I deal with Scott and I deal with Howard, and we're dealing with a lot of people actually that are going to be involved in that decision ultimately. It's a very important decision.
Well, also, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday he's prepared to impose economic sanctions against Russia if Vladimir Putin fails to agree to a ceasefire. At a cabinet meeting, Trump said it will not be a world war, but it will be an economic war. Trump is seeking one-on-one talks between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Putin, though Zelensky has agreed in principle to such talks. Putin has not.
I want to see that deal end. It's very serious what I have in mind if I have to do it, but I want to see it end. I think that in many ways he's there. Sometimes he'll be there and Zelensky won't be there. You know, it's like, who do we have today? I got to get them both at the same time. But I want to have it end. We have economic sanctions. I'm talking about economic, because we're not going to get into a world war.
Well, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will meet with representatives from Ukraine in New York this week. Witkoff said that Washington continues to talk with Russia as the United States seeks an end to Ukraine conflict. He thought Russian President Vladimir Putin wanted to bring an end to the conflict. He said Putin made a good faith effort to engage. Also, President Donald Trump held a summit with Putin in Alaska on August 15th and a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, as well as NATO and European leaders at the White House on August 18th. Following those meetings, Trump said Zelensky and Putin would hold a bilateral meeting before a trilateral meeting that would also include Trump. Trump had vowed a swift end to the conflict that began in 2022 when he took office in January, but is yet to achieve that objective. Also, Germany is set to lift its months-long ban on the entry of vulnerable Afghan nationals, a foreign ministry official said on Tuesday, following rising domestic legal pressure and Pakistan's deportation campaign. Around 2,000 Afghans approved for relocation to Germany under a program for those deemed at risk under Taliban rule have been stranded in neighboring Pakistan for months after Berlin halted the program in an effort to reduce migration. The decision comes following several lawsuits by groups and dozens of affected Afghans challenging the freeze. The Interior Ministry, which had put the program on hold in the first place and was blocking its resumption, said Afghan nationals who were promised admission under earlier programs were undergoing individual case reviews. And a Brazilian judge declared far-right ex-president Jair Bolsonaro, who is under house arrest while awaiting the verdict in his coup plotting trial, a flight risk and placed him under round-the-clock watch. Bolsonaro faces 40 years in prison if convicted of plotting to cling onto power after losing 2022 elections to left-winger Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The verdict in the case is expected to early next month. Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes was acting on a request from the Brazilian prosecutor's office. Bolsonaro is accused of leading a criminal organization that aimed to prevent Lula taking power after he narrowly defeated Bolsonaro in October 2022 elections. And time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipak Shukran, and on to some sports news now about the US Day Open 2025. Iga Swiatek and Jannik Sinner cruised to the second round with routine wins. Wimbledon winner Swiatek cruised past Emiliana Arango 6-1, 6-2 in an hour without facing a break point. Swiatek has been in exquisite form since the Cincinnati Open. She will next face Suzanne Lehmann in round 2. In other women's single action, French Open winner Coco Gauff secured a hard-fought victory over Egula Tomljanovic. Gauff had to dig deep in a classic 3-set thriller to advance into the next round. She will face Donna Vekic in round 2. Meanwhile, top-ranked men's defending champion Jannik Sinner thrashed Vit Kopriva in straight sets. Sinner eased into the second round, where he'll face Australia's Alexei Popyrin. And two-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu fended off a stiff challenge from Bulgaria's Kalyana Nalbantova to sail into the second round of the BWF World Championships in Paris on Tuesday. Sindhu was pushed hard in the opening game but dominated Nalbantova in the second to win 23-21, 21-6. The Indian badminton player, who has largely struggled for form this season, started off slowly against a 19-year-old opponent and trailed by 4 points at the first interval. Sindhu fared better after the restart and strung together 7 points to edge ahead. In men's singles, H.S. Pranoy was largely in control against Joachim Altdorf during his 21-18, 21-15 win. Pranoy looked in pretty solid physical shape. He started well, moving across the court with agility to outclass his opponent. And the Indian government will celebrate the National Sports Day from 29 to 31st of August to honor veteran hockey wizard Major Dhyan Chand. This year, the celebrations will be organized as a 3-day nationwide sports and fitness movement. The aim is to foster a culture of mass participation in sports and fitness activities across the country. Take a look.
The Indian government will celebrate National Sports Day 2025 as a 3-day mass movement of sports and fitness. The day is celebrated every year on 29th August to commemorate the birth anniversary of hockey legend Major Dhyan Chand. India's Sports Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia will lead the Pan-India sports movement from 29th to 31st August under the inspiring theme Ek Ghanta Khel ke Maidan Mein, which means 1 hour in playground. The movement seeks to spread awareness about the importance of dedicating at least 60 minutes daily to physical activity for preventing lifestyle diseases. The spirit of National Sports Day also pays special tribute to Olympic values of excellence, friendship, respect, and Paralympic values of courage, determination, inspiration, and equality. The framework for the 3-day festival is as follows. On day 1, tributes will be paid to Major Dhyan Chand across the nation, followed by Fit India Pledge and 1 hour of playing sports. Day 2 will see sports debates, fitness talks and competitions in indigenous and other sports. The celebrations will culminate with Fit India Sundays on Cycle on day 3, a nationwide drive to promote cycling as an integral part of life. Eminent athletes and public representatives are set to take part in the celebrations and engage in sports activities which will bring over 35 crore students from different schools, colleges and universities together.
मेजर ध्यानचंद जी की लेगेसी हमें इंस्पायर करते हैं कि स्पोर्ट्स से देश को और स्ट्रॉन्ग बनाए। वेटलिफ्टिंग ने मुझे सिखाया कि छोटी मेहनत भी बड़ी उपलब्धियां ला सकते हैं। स्पोर्ट्स हमें एकजुट कराता है। 29 to 31 अगस्त के 3 days मेगा सेलिब्रेशन का हिस्सा बने और खेल को जिंदगी का पार्ट बनाए।
Aligned with India's vision of hosting the Olympic Games in 2036, the celebrations aim to foster a culture of mass participation in sports and fitness activities across Bharat. The celebrations are designed to be inclusive of all age groups, from children playing indigenous games to youth sports competitions to yoga sessions and cycling rallies. The vision is to unite the entire nation to celebrate inclusively, embracing both modern sports and traditional indigenous games. Sports Desk, DD India.
Well, every generation of cricket has produced its icons, but very few names stand tall across eras the way Donald Bradman's does. On his birth anniversary, the cricketing world pauses to remember the man whose bat rewrote the record books. From his unmatched average of 99.94 to the sheer dominance he displayed against the finest bowlers of his time, Bradman became a symbol of excellence and perfection. Here's more.
Donald Bradman, born on August 27, 1908, he became the face of Australian pride and cricketing perfection. At Sheffield Street, Bradman began his practice of hitting a golf ball against the brick base of a water tank using a shortened cricket stump, helping to develop his splendid timing. In his first competitive match, aged 11, he scored 55 not out for his primary school. His initial century came playing for his high school the following season against Mittagong, making 115 out of the team's 156. This was the first of 211 centuries he would score in all formats of cricket. In February 1921, his father took him to the Sydney cricket ground to see the 5th test match between Australia and England. He was enthralled by the experience, the only first-class cricket he witnessed before playing it himself. Throughout his career, the SCG remained his favourite ground. In just 52 tests, Bradman amassed 6,996 runs, averaging at staggering 99.94, a number etched in cricket's folklore. With 29 centuries, including multiple double and triple tons, his dominance was beyond imagination. Bradman first stamped his authority during the 1930 Ashes. At Headingley, he scored 309 runs in a single day, part of a record 974-run series haul, a benchmark no one has surpassed. His brilliance forced the opponents to create a whole strategy around him. The infamous bodyline tactics of 1932-33 Ashes is a proof how one man can dictate the entire game. The bodyline tactics were used by the England cricket team during the 1932-33 Ashes series in Australia. Captain Douglas instructed his fast bowlers to bowl short pitch deliveries aimed directly at the batsman's body, where the idea was to force batters into awkward defensive shots that could be caught by a packed leg side field. In his final test innings at the Oval in 1948, he needed just 4 runs for an average of 100. Instead, he was bowled for a duck by Eric Hollies. Cricket's most famous statistic froze at 99.94, leaving behind a touch of poetic imperfection. Knighted in 1949, Bradman's influence reached far beyond the pitch. His leadership, humility and vision for cricket remain unmatched. From generations of Australians to icons like Sachin Tendulkar, every cricketer has looked up to the dawn. Decades may have passed, but the legacy of Donald Bradman still defines the game of cricket. His unmatched average of 99.94 still stands as the cricket's ultimate benchmark. The cricketing world, now on his birth anniversary, remembers him as a legend who redefined the game of cricket and batting for generations to come. With cameraman Rajendra Joshi, this is Meher Raj Singh for DD India, Delhi.
And on this World Lake Day, India is spotlighting its ambitious efforts to revive and protect the country's vital water bodies through the flagships like Mission Amrit Sarovar, Jal Shakti Abhiyan and many more to restore traditional ponds that once sustained agriculture and communities.
Have you ever watched the sun sink into the waters of a lake? A lake is not just a still body of water, it is the heartbeat of our planet. Understanding this significance, the Government of India launched Mission Amrit Sarovar, a pledge to build 75 lakes in every district and revive the traditional ponds that once nurtured our land. Today, more than 68,000 Amrit Sarovars have been completed. Imagine how many villages found water again, how much greenery returned, how many lives were touched by hope. Alongside came the Jal Shakti Abhiyan, Catch the Rain, with the motto Water Conservation, People's Participation. Now every drop of rain directly recharges the earth and gives life to our farms. Lakes are also the guardians of our culture and heritage. Take Maharashtra's Lona Lake, a marvel of nature and history. To protect and develop it, the government invested more than 90 crores. The theme of World Lake Day 2025 is Lakes, the lifeblood of our planet. To save a lake is to save our tomorrow. For as long as our lakes live, our civilization will live.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.